Hello again, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. When North Korea created the Moranbong Band, it created a very powerful weapon. It was a weapon that had the ability to neutralize every B-52 sitting on Guam, every American carrier group, every American attack submarine. The Moranbong Band made it unnecessary to build nukes. They wouldn't have had to build nukes. We'd have to fire off missiles and piss everybody off. The Moranbong Band was a powerful weapon in that it had the ability to change people's minds. And trust me when I tell you that trying to change people's minds is an extraordinarily difficult thing to do. It's bordering on the impossible. Because in order to get somebody to alter their way of thinking, the person that you're trying to persuade must first admit to themselves that they're wrong about something and then accept your narrative, your version. People don't like to do that. It usually only happens in something like a religious conversion. You know, when somebody says, okay, fine, I'm going to, change my whole way of thinking. But the Moranbong Band had the power to do that. It had the power to change people's minds. North Korea didn't realize this. And I'll tell you why I think that was in a moment. I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons for that. Why North Korea refused or neglected or failed to weaponize the Moranbong Band. I don't know who came up with the idea of the Moranbong Band, but it was just pure genius. Yeah, I don't know. But somebody came up with the idea of taking a string quartet. That's a first violin, second violin, viola, and cello, and grafting it onto a rock and roll band, which in this case, it was a lead guitar, bass guitar, a couple of keyboards, electronic keyboards. Then you had a saxophone, clarinet right in there, and drums, and then they threw in a grand piano for good measure. So you had 11 musicians, and basically with a combination like that, you can play almost anything. You can go all the way from rock and roll to jazz, Duke Ellington, that sort of thing. You can go all to classical music, Mozart. You can go all the way from Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin all the way to Beethoven. It's basically a human jukebox. And because the musicians are so highly skilled, they read music like we read the newspaper. You put it in front of them, they can play it. Whatever you put in front of them, bam, 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 they play it, rip it right off. So when I first saw them, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When I first saw them, I was totally surprised, and I had three initial thoughts. First is just absolute utter perfection. They were just so tight to the nanosecond. There wasn't any drop notes, no one fell behind or got up ahead. If you listen closely, they're just there. It's almost like they've been synced by a computer, but they haven't. That just comes from being really, really good, highly skilled. The second thought I had is, how can this be coming out of North Korea? And that's the big thing. How can North Korea produce something like this? These beautiful girls, or women. They were probably early 20s, I imagine. And they're playing everything. They're not playing just North Korean music. They're playing other stuff. They're playing foreign music. They're playing American stuff. That surprised me. And that made me rethink a lot of things of what I've been told about North Korea. I had to think, wait a minute, this coming out of North Korea, maybe what I've been hearing has been wrong or partially wrong to some extent. And then my third thought was, of course, what a great propaganda tool this would make for North Korea. Because if it changed my mind, or if it caused me to reassess what I've been thinking and saying, wait a minute, maybe what I've been told is wrong. And it's kind of easy in that respect for me to change my mind because I don't have firsthand knowledge of something. I've only believed what I've been told. And, so people lie to me. People lie all the time in the media. I mean, the media is just full of lies. The media probably lies more than they tell the truth. And that goes for politicians as well. So, but I was forced to reassess what I thought about North Korea. And I said, well, maybe it's bad, but it can't be all bad. There's got to be some good. See? And that's where that's where you start to change your mind. So I was thinking, well, and my initial thoughts were maybe, that some really smart people in Pyongyang are going to figure out, hey, this is a great way to repackage or rebrand North Korea, to cause people to think differently about us. And I don't know. Back in 2007, North Korea got word to the United States or the government or somebody in the U.S. that they'd like to have a visit from the New York Philharmonic. So that came about in 2008, I believe, early February 2008. The New York Philharmonic came to Pyongyang, and they played at the East Pyongyang Grand Theater, which seats about like 2,500 people. And I think they gave one performance or whatever, and it was pretty good, actually. A lot of people came. And so you'd think that then the North Korea would take the chance to reciprocate. They say, okay, fine, we've got the Moranbong Band. We'd like to go to New York City and play Carnegie Hall. The U.S. couldn't very well refuse because they'd already, granted the one request. So now they'd say, okay, fine, that's only fair. But North Korea didn't pursue that. And could you imagine the impact that it would have had? It would have been an earthquake if the Moranbong Band would have played Carnegie Hall. The U.S. media would have just gone mental. They'd have gone nuts. Especially if the Moranbong Band played some patriotic American music. To whip out a rendition of America the Beautiful. I mean, it'd just go crazy. And everybody would rethink. Everything they've been told about North Korea, they'd rethink it. And they'd say, wait a minute, these beautiful women come over here and they play so beautifully, and they're so nice, and they're respectful, and they play American music. What's not to like? Didn't happen. And it's kind of a, and why didn't it happen? Well, I haven't totally formulated, I haven't arrived at a conclusion of why North Korea didn't weaponize the Moranbong Band. But it may be that, let's say they set out to do it, and let's say, no, we got to use the Moranbong Band for propaganda purposes. And good propaganda changes people's minds. It persuades. It alters people's way of thinking, just like I've said. That's what good propaganda does. Propaganda is not public relations or advertising, although there's elements of that involved. But advertising or public relations already reinforces something you already believe. It just adds that on. Propaganda changes minds. So what North Korea would have had to have done is say, okay, we're going to use the group to change people's minds about us. So what is there about us people don't like? That's the question that they can't ask. And look at all these guys in government here. These characters here. This is the lineup. This is the Politburo. I believe. The Presidium is much smaller. It's only like a half a dozen of these guys, but this is a Politburo. And you just look at these guys' faces. And, you know, these are the top brass. You think these guys are going to admit that they need to reassess their own values and say, look, this is what America, these are the things about us that America doesn't like. So we're going to have to change that. And they'd never do it. And then here's Kim Ki-nam. He's in charge of what's called propaganda and agitation. It doesn't sound, it's not really like it sounds. Agitation is just really something to get people excited. The word translates poorly. But he's in charge of media, Kim Ki-nam. And he's like 80-something years old. So what does he know about anything? I mean, Kim Ki-nam got to his position, as did all these other guys, by saying no. I mean, that's the first thing out of their mouths, no. Because you can never get in trouble for saying no. You don't have to stick your neck out. Somebody says, well, yeah, let's try this. No. Why? No. So somebody came along and said, you know, let's weaponize the Moranbong Band. No. But it's a good idea. It alters people's way of thinking about us. No. Why? Just no. See? Because what if they tried it and it didn't work? Then they'd be in trouble. So nobody takes a chance. The only person that can say yes in North Korea is the supreme leader, Kim Jong-un. And he says yes, if he says yes on Tuesday, it might be no on Wednesday. That's the way that works. So it's much better to say, you know, it can't be done. No way, let's not do that. And that may be why no one took the initiative, even though somebody may have thought of it and going, hey, this is a great idea. Let's put the group out there and, you know, put our best foot forward. And, I mean, I would think that would be a great idea, and a lot of people would. Because a lot of people, when they first saw the Moranbong Band, they thought just exactly like I did. You know, and I'm not a socialist. You know, I'm completely opposite of a socialist. And yet, I like what's going on here, see? And so a lot of people think the same thing. I mean, you know, all you people watching this, you wouldn't be watching it if you didn't like the Moranbong Band. So the idea of that they failed to do something with the group, you know, they failed to what I call weaponize it, make it a great propaganda tool. And, you know, honestly, North Korea is really lousy at making propaganda. I mean, you'd think they'd be really good, but they're not very good at all. They just, and that's a subject for another video. But I'm surprised how bad they are at it. South Korea is great. South Korea just keeps piling it on. And North Korea doesn't respond. I mean, they lash out and get angry, but getting angry is not propaganda. You know, when North Korea says, oh, well, we're going to nuke the United States, well, that's not propaganda. Because that only reinforces something people already believe. I mean, that's public relations, right? There's advertising, because people already think that North Korea is the bad guys. So when North Korea says, well, we're going to nuke the United States and it'll all go up in flames, it's already something you believe. You know, propaganda is when North Korea comes along and says, wait a minute, hold on, you know, what you believe about us isn't true. Here's the truth about us. See, that's good propaganda. But North Korea failed to do it. And yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, the people at the top just, you know, I mean, their favorite word is no. Not going to happen. So, yeah, that's a really good question. And, you know, I'll probably return to it several times. Because the Moranbong Band was marginalized. They were pushed off into the corner. downgraded, devalued, and it was a tragedy. It's a missed opportunity. Now, I've had some people mention, or some people theorize, that the Moranbong Band might come back again and be reconstituted as a separate group. And that may happen. But I highly doubt it'll happen in Pyongyang. They'll come back and start to capture all the attention again. I don't think so. What may happen is a version of the Moranbong Band will be, it might be put in Wonsan, because the coast on the city on the east coast there, where they're planning on refurbishing it and making it a tourist destination. That's their big plans. So they're going to redo the whole city, and they might put in a big an arena of some kind, and then put the group in there permanently or mostly permanent, so tourists can come and see them. And I mean, that'd be wonderful. They could do that. But outside of that, I don't know. But yeah, it just amazes me that the North Korean government didn't seize on the opportunity and use the Moranbong Band to neutralize most of the nonsense coming out of the American government. I mean, it would have been a wonderful thing to do, but they didn't do it. So anyway, as always, leave your comments and suggestions in the space below, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.